Good afternoon and greetings and welcome to Boston University Parents Program radio broadcast, coming at you live from the Boston University Charles River campus, right along the banks of the Charles River. We're thrilled that you'll be able to join us today, and I can tell you that March has zoomed by like no other. You know, at Boston University and in the world of academia and higher education, when you can see spring break in your rearview mirror, you know spring cannot be too far off.
Right.
So we are here, and I'm joined by my co-host Christy Loring, who will talk a little bit about what's on our plate and agenda today.
Great.
Christy.
Thank you, Daryl. As Daryl mentioned, Christy Loring, Associate Director of the Parents Program. It's great to have all of you join us. And as Daryl alluded, it is definitely a spring day. Breezy, been a bit cool, but sun is shining and daffodils are blooming. So we're very happy to see that. I am really pleased to introduce Katharine Mooney, who's the Director of the Wellness and Prevention Service Center, which is part of Student Health Services. Katharine, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And also Anderson, who is a Student Health Ambassador, which is a really very important role that a student can play here on campus. And I'm unfortunate that we just missed the application for student health ambassadors for the coming academic year, but we're pleased to have Anderson here, and we're really pleased to talk about important topics, wellness and prevention services. So it's really great to have you. And if I may kick it off, undeniably, we see increased number of students that are suffering from stress and anxiety, not only on BU's campus, but on college campuses throughout the country. So how does BU meet the needs of this growing number of students that are suffering?
Sure. And I think you're exactly right, Christy. We're seeing really a trend nationally that students are just experiencing more stress and anxiety than they ever have before. And so all universities, including Boston University, are really led to think about how they can better support students. And so we do that in a variety of ways. I think for students who are really struggling day in and day out, certainly we have our counseling department available to students. That's called behavioral medicine, and it's part of student health along with the wellness and prevention office, primary care, and the sexual assault response and prevention center. And students can see a counselor for free. It's confidential. And so that information isn't shared with parents or with advisors or anyone else, and that's a great resource for students who really are struggling. But we also do a lot of other prevention work on campus to try and support students' self-care throughout the year. And we work collaboratively with a lot of other departments to do that. So one example is that the Fitness and Recreation Center, they offer classes, PDP courses, they're called, throughout the year to really promote well-being and self-care. So all kinds of exercise classes, yoga classes, even meditation, which is a really effective tool for managing stress and anxiety during the year.
Katharine, give us some examples about this whole concept of self-care and the PDP courses that are offered.
Sure. So I think self-care is the idea that we want students to be prioritizing their health throughout the year. And so what that may look like is making sure that you're getting enough exercise. That's the most effective way to combat stress. You need to actually burn off that cortisol that's pumping in your body and leading to that feeling of anxiety. So exercise is key. Making sure that they're eating in a healthy way. You're going to be hearing from the Sargent Choice Nutrition folks later on. So they do a lot of education about what healthy eating looks like on a college campus. We also want to make sure that students are talking to one another. Feel free to jump in at any point, Anderson. Having social support, making sure that students feel connected on campus. Being part of student organizations is one way that I think students will feel supported socially on campus. What else?
Yeah, Katharine just said some great examples of how we work with other organizations in order to address this issue. And for example, last Monday we had a fresh check day, and we worked with a bunch of different organizations on campus and off campus, and that was just basically the day was invested in students assessing their mental health, and that's one of the aspects that is involved with stress management and anxiety on students. So there were different booths, and we worked in the different booths, and we gave every student that came to us advice on how to deal with stress. So um, definitely what Catherine said about peer-to-peer interactions, though that was an example of how we communicated with peers after we did our research on different subjects. We communicated to the peers that came to us different strategies that we found, and then they also communicated with themselves. We I guess I don't know the words, but we made it easier for like different peers and who are strangers to each other to communicate to themselves. That way they can expand how much information they're getting, not just from professionals, but also from their own peers.
And so I'm going to have you rewind the videotape a little bit and just have you introduce yourself fully, who you are, what do you study in, what school you're in, where you're from.
My name is Anderson Gomez Murcia. I am a junior in Sargent College, majoring in human physiology. Um, well, I'm from Colombia originally, but now I live in New York, and I'm a student health ambassador. I work with Catherine at the wellness office, and this is my first year as a student health ambassador, and so far it's been an amazing experience.
That's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the student health ambassador role that you play and how you can do some outreach. I love what Catherine said. Parents, listen up. Exercise, eating healthy, sleeping,
Yes.
and doing some social interactions are the key to success for not only students but humans.
Mhm.
So talk to us a little bit about the ambassador role and how you ended up where you are.
So, the student health ambassadors are a group of undergraduates who are health minded. That doesn't mean that they're science majors. No, we just have a interest in the health and wellness in our campus. So we work as groups with wellness office and Catherine, as I said already, to try to ease that communication between students and different organizations on campus, so that the students are aware of some of the different resources available to them as Boston University students. And we're trained by professionals on some of the different issues that are relevant to undergraduates, and not just undergraduates but college students, so that we know how to address the general population, our peers, when they come to us, because basically we are at a leadership position where what we say, they are kind of like listening to that. Our peers are kind of listening to. So that's that's that shows how that that's like an example of how we have to be educated ourselves and have interest in what we're talking about, so that we can provide students with the best information available.
Anderson, I think you raised so many important points that when you're a young adult, 18, 19, having these elevated levels of stress and anxiety, I think you often feel as though it's only me, I'm the only one with these feelings of anxiety or stress. And it's not an easy thing to talk about, unfortunately. I think there's, unfortunately, still a stigma about talking about anxiety, stress, even and depression too. But to know that there are students who that you could go to and say, you know, I'm really struggling right now. This level of anxiety is becoming overwhelming. I can't deal with it on my own. I need some help. I think being able to go to a peer as opposed to perhaps going to a professor, it might be a little less threatening or daunting. So I think what you're doing is wonderful.
Anderson, tell us a little bit about how folks find health ambassadors. Are they referred to you by the Wellness Center, Student Health? Do you guys do outreach to different communities?
So what I would say our main form of people knowing who we are and getting referred to as this outreach. We have tabling events, and then we also have like different events in general, like for example Sex at Sunset, where we were talking about sexual health. And then there was Sex in Dark last semester, and that was just a panel about also sexual health and sexual questions that students might have that they're too afraid to ask. So we had a panel, and the students could submit their own questions, and then the panel would answer them, so the students didn't have to put their name or anything. Then we have tabling events where we're promoting different aspects of wellness and health that we're working with. So I know one of our other student health ambassadors uh, did work on smoking issues, and the student health ambassador did research on how prevalent and just information that's relevant to college students about smoking. And then we had tabling events presenting that information. And then we also work with last event that I personally worked with tabling was the Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and I was working along with the group of that student organization, and just getting students to come to our table so that they could hear some of the statistics and information that was relevant about eating disorders. And um, that's just how students learn about us, through tabling events and then just general events.
Word of mouth, I'm sure, is useful, and social media to
Yes.
sort of push it out.
Yes, we depend a lot on social media, Facebook and Twitter, on those.
You brought up one item that I made a note about, which is smoking. Catherine, do we see smoking with college-age students? Is it on the increase, decrease? Is it holding steady?
Yeah, it's a great question. So nationally, in terms of college age young people, smoking is really down, which is great. Yeah, below 10%, which is a huge accomplishment, I think, for folks in the public health profession, to really decrease that number. We have a fair amount of smoking on the Boston University campus, and it's something that, as Anderson said, some of our students are really starting to address. We're also collecting some interesting data just on smoking habits and students' perceptions of secondhand smoke in particular, how that affects them walking down campus. So just trying to think creatively about signage and getting students involved and raising awareness around secondhand smoke in particular on campus.
Let's be clear, Boston University is a smoke-free campus. Students generally smoke on sidewalks or public streets or common areas, but certainly not in any buildings or in any official sanctioned Boston University property or events or programs. One of the things that you mentioned is I'm always amazed as I transverse the landscape of Boston University's campus, which is, as we all know, long and thin along the Charles River. You see a number of students that are smoking on their way to class, or right before they get on the T or the Boston University shuttle bus. And I'm always amazed that in this day and age, with all the information and all the signage on the packs of cigarettes, this will kill you.
Right.
That even 10% is a big number. When you're talking about 30,000, 32,000 students, if you add faculty, staff, and guests, we may have 50,000 people in this campus. Which would be 5,000 people that could potentially be smoking on a single day. So I'm always surprised at that. You mentioned one thing. How important is, in this exercise, eating, healthy, social interaction, proper sleep, how important is the sleep factor?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
College students seem to sort of, I'll sleep later.
Right.
Sleeping is,
my gosh.
I'll save it.
I think sleep, and really specifically lack thereof, is really the next major health issue for college students. We're just learning more and more about how sleep impacts academic success in particular, which obviously students and parents both, I think, care a lot about. And so we're creating resources to help students better understand that connection. You have an example here.
I have to share this because it's so wonderful, and I believe this was done by student health ambassadors.
They help with the program kit.
And
Good night, Kamav.
it's part of a kit. Good night, Kamav. It's a Good Night Moon. And it comes with
it comes with, this is an example of a resource that we put together for student leaders so that they can have conversations with their peers about the importance of sleep. So that may be a student health ambassador or a resident assistant, other peer leaders on campus. So yeah, the booklet has lots of great strategies for getting better sleep, and then students will also receive a sleep mask, herbal tea, aromatherapy materials, and earplugs, all things that they might not think to come to campus with, but we may realize pretty quickly that they need, especially if their roommate has a very different sleep schedule than they might.
So Catherine, if a parent's listening and says, oh my goodness, that would do Johnny a world of good, how does he get one of these?
Yep, so students can request our sleep kit on our website. And we also have some other kits there as well. So we have resources on stress management, on safer drinking, and a resource that the student health ambassadors put together for finals time, which has some great resources about self-care. And all of those are available online, so it's very easy. They can request their supplies. We actually assemble it for the students, and then they just come to the office and pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this one too. This is the Stress Less Sushi Bar. And it is in part a coloring book along with some other important tips about stress management and resources that are available. But it comes with crayons, and coloring is a great way to distress.
That's right.
And it's a fad. It's everywhere. So they're doing a lot of good work. And the finals kit, you go through online and see all that it is comprised of. It's really quite impressive. And wish I had one when I was taking my final exams. So they're wonderful resources. And they're all available via your website.
Yes.
And I have to mention, because I was just tickled with the idea about in preparing for final exams, you have this amazing text message offer that the student health ambassador service, thank you, that your student health ambassadors put together. And Anderson, would you mind telling us about that?
Yeah. So this program was created by one of my fellow student health ambassadors, and it's basically just a Google form that the student would fill out.
Yeah, great.
And you would put your name, your phone number, and then what exam you have on a certain date, and then you get a text message that just says good luck and you're gonna ace it, and just to encourage you, that little push that might be needed when you unfortunately might have stayed up like 2 hours. Gotten 2 hours of
and
sleep.
It comes on the morning of the date that you provided.
Yeah.
As a sense of confidence, push, encouragement.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic. So over and above a parent or a sibling or a family member giving some encouragement to a student for an academic project, if you will. You get it from our good folks in Wellness and Prevention Services.
That's right.
Another thing that I thought was great on their website, you can download this, you can print it. It says, in case you have not been adequately informed, please consider this the official notification that you are awesome. And I think these should be stickers.
Yeah.
You could put one on your mirror, you could put one on your car, you can put one on your ID, you can put one on your laptop, you name it. But again, this little positive reinforcement, even if it just makes you smile during a stressful time, that's really important. And I think I'm going to put this in my son's lunchbox.
Yeah. That's what I love working about working with the student health ambassadors is, we can, as professionals, try to come up with programs and initiatives that resonate with students. But when it comes from them, they just know exactly what is going to feel supportive to their peers, whether it's a text message, a couple hours before a test, or a treat to reward yourself with after the exam. So they do a lot of great work.
I think they do, and certainly being, living through the experience as well, going through your own courses and tests and projects, you understand. And living with roommates and different schedules, and it can all be very stressful at
Catherine,
times.
since our primary audience is parents,
Yes.
what role can parents play
Mhm.
with encouragement and positive reinforcement with their sons and daughters and sons in Boston University as they go through these steps of getting exercise, eating healthy, getting proper sleep?
Right.
What role do the parents play at a distance?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sure many parents watching have had the experience of getting a phone call from a student who's feeling really stressed out. And I think we really can't underestimate the power of listening and just hearing out your student when they're feeling stressed, and not necessarily trying to solve the problem for them in that moment, but just letting them know about the resources that are available on campus, because there's so many of them, and just being a listening ear and show that social support that other peers are doing as well.
I think that's such an important point, and I must confess that I remember calling my mom during college, really sort of panicked, stressed, anxious, and all I needed her to do at that point in time was to listen to me. I wasn't looking for any resolution, and what could she do to resolve it from so many miles away? But um, the reassuring voice from your mom saying
Yes.
it's going to be okay is really sometimes all you need.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't emphasize enough the importance of listening.
So valuable. You've mentioned your website and contact information. Can you give it to us in its entirety? Your website, your phone number, the location of where you're at, and how folks reach you guys?
Sure. Okay. This is like a quiz. So we're located at 930 Commonwealth Avenue, which is across the street from Student Health Services.
On the south side of Commonwealth Avenue,
That's right.
across from Fit Rec Center.
Exactly. Our phone number is 617-358-0485. And our website is pretty easy, that I know off the top of my head too, is bu.edu/shs/wellness. And that is where you can find all of the information about our programs, our program kits, the student health ambassadors, and other resources. And we're also on social media, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest.
And on those is it the same SHS /
Yeah, so
wellness?
Yeah, and all of our social media links are on our website. That might even be the
perfect.
easiest.
Yeah, so we'll feed everyone to the website. Again, it's bu.edu/SHS for Student Health Services /wellness. Great. We are so grateful to each of you, Anderson and Catherine, for joining us today. We hope that you come back sometime, and we do this every single month, and we do this every week during summer orientation to do some outreach to parents and our Boston University community. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Boston University Parents Program radio broadcast. Again, we are broadcasting live from the Charles River campus. I'm Daryl DeLuca. I'm joined by my co-host, Christy Loring. And, Christy, we talked a little bit earlier about spring and flowers blossoming and the old man winter in our rearview mirror. One of my benchmarks of all time is we are about a month away from the Boston Marathon.
It's true.
The 118th or 119th, do we know what it is? Something like that. 118th, 119th running of the Boston Marathon. Yeah, it's just extraordinary coming up in April, so that's all good news. Christy, introduce our next guest for the radio broadcast.
It's a great benchmark, Daryl, and I'm pleased to introduce Lauren O'Brien, who is a nutritionist at Sargent, at the Sargent Choice Nutrition Center, which is part of Sargent College. And we were just speaking with Katharine Mooney, the director of Wellness and Prevention Services, and she reminded us what we all know, but it's easy to forget or ignore, that your overall health and well-being really is, eating the right things, having the right nutrition, getting the right amount of sleep, and exercising. But in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it's easy to put that aside.
Definitely.
But I love to share the resources that you have here for our students, and really can run the gamut from struggling with any kind of dietary restrictions to eating disorders, and also concern for your overall health, whether it be weight gain or even weight loss.
Yeah.
These are important issues for students.
Definitely. I think always we see our students come in, and it always tends to be such a challenge making the transition from home to the dining halls, where it's kind of, I always say it's like being on a cruise ship all the time. They have access to anything at any time. Yeah. Where if they want to eat pizza and burgers all the time, they could do that. And nobody's going to say, maybe we should have something different. But eventually something like that tends to get old, and they start to think, well, what can I be doing to make sure that my nutrition is kind of matching up with my overall health goals? And the students here are really, really lucky. We have a really unique center here at the university, where there's 7 dietitians on staff that students really can take advantage of. So we don't just have resources where if students have a more complicated issue that they want to be working through, whether it is something like an eating disorder or a food allergy or some kind of health risk like prediabetes that they want to kind of manage, but all of the students at the university can come in and see a dietitian for at least one session at no cost to them. So what we try to do is make it easier for them to make the most out of that opportunity. So we have them go into a group first where we'll cover kind of the basics so that they can really maximize that one-on-one time that they have with the dietitian, talking more about their individual goals. So that group will really kind of cover all the general things that we would normally go over that would take a whole session to do, but it allows them to then go in with the dietitian one-on-one and say, okay, I have this strong base now, here are the individual things that I want to be working on and changing. So they have that as a resource. We also teach PDP courses up at the FitRec, where they have 1 credit opportunities to take advantage of. So that can be either a nutrition essentials course, which kind of takes 14 weeks to really cover all the basics and backgrounds of your individual nutrition and how that might work for you.
And they earn 1 academic credit?
1 academic credit,
Fantastic,
And then the other option is Healthy Cooking on a Budget, which is a practical class for not just learning nutrition basics, but also developing skills.
We all could.
And we've changed the format of it recently. It used to just be that every other week, the dietitian hosting the class would do a food demonstration. Now when there's a food demonstration going on, the students are hands-on learning a skill. So everybody in the class gets a cutting board and a knife, and they are learning to chop onions and scallions and peppers. So they really don't just get, okay, here's how you make a really healthy recipe, but it's also, here's how you can actually apply that, and these are the skills that you need to do that. And then on top of that, we also have individual custom seminars. So if students are part of a group or a sorority or a club, and they want a dietitian to come in and talk with them, they can actually log onto our website and request something like that. So there's loads of resources at our center for the students to take advantage of. of, and it's something that we see them taking tons of advantage of, because
That's
nutrition
wonderful.
isn't easy, even though food is kind of
Mhm.
part of everybody's everyday life.
Yes, right.
As adults, you don't think about young folks that may not know how to chop and prepare a salad
No.
without cutting their hand off.
Right, exactly. Believe
Or
me,
cutting your
it's
finger off.
it's brought my anxiety through the roof. Everybody in the class, 30 students in the class, kind of with knives and cutting boards, but
They don't have to do that here,
It's-
right? It's all available to them. Someone else
Yeah.
doing it. They might have to do it when they move off campus.
right. And
A small percentage of students do live
And
off
for
campus.
most students across the board, nobody ever tells them, here's how you chop an onion, here's how you
Sure.
hold a knife safely, here's how you hold your hand so you don't cut off your fingers. And
Here's how to change the board when you're using meat and versus
exactly, yeah, and it really just gives them those practical applications that aren't necessarily going to make them a gourmet chef, but are going to give them the basics that they need to make a really healthy, well-rounded, budget-friendly meal when they go into the kitchen eventually.
vegetables. You talked about this group that does the assessment
Mm-hmm.
pre-dietitian meeting.
Yeah.
Who are these folks? Are they students, undergrads, grad students,
So a
staff?
combination. Some of it will be dietitians, but we also have many grad students who work with our center, and some of the sessions will be run by them. There's always going to be a dietitian supervising them, so they're always going to be making sure that they've been trained well, that the information that they're giving to the students is sound information, and that if there were someone who kind of slipped into the group and probably needs a higher level of care than what was necessary for kind of that group coverage, they always let us know something like that if that's going on.
So what if there is a student that needs a higher level of care besides this either group meeting or this one-on-one session? What are the
So
resources?
the students get that one session that's kind of included, that's at no cost to them, and then if there is some need for a higher level of care, they have up to 5 sessions with us. And then after that, they would switch over to insurance, and we take all the major insurances, so they have that opportunity as well. So it's just kind of nice to continue the care if they feel like they are someone who needs a little bit more one-on-one, whether they are newly diagnosed with a food allergy or celiac disease or have been struggling with an eating disorder. To have that continuity of care can be really, really beneficial in making sure that they kind of meet their goals in the way that they want to. So they get those 5 sessions if they need them, and then after that, we switch over to insurance for them.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So again, if a parent who's listening says, I think my daughter or son could really benefit from these services, how do our students find out about them, and how do they sign up for them?
Yeah, everything is listed on our website. So our website is just bu.edu/scnutrition, and they can log on there and they'll be able to see that there's information for groups, there's information for individuals, and they can either sign up for an appointment right on that website, or it provides our phone number as well, that they can always contact us that way, which is another great way to reach us.
And when students sign up for that or explore your website, you don't go and call their mother, do you?
No, we do not. We only talk with students' parents if it's been approved by the student, and they want us to kind of keep the parent on the same page. If there was also a concern about a student putting themselves at risk, there would be a time where we would kind of contact their parent and let them know that we're concerned about that student as well. But all of that is always discussed with the student. We always make sure that they're aware of kind of what the concerns are and whether or not we would talk to their parent, and it's only going to be as necessary or if they desire us to.
In the college and university landscape of higher education and young adults becoming more independent, that is so very, very important.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether we're talking about sexual health or nutrition health or dietary or exercise.
Yeah.
People want their independence and their privacy.
Yeah, and we want to give them that. I think that it's a time for them to kind of figure out what their food preferences are, what their best goals are, and we want to kind of be a support in that and kind of help give them the tools to be able to accomplish that and not feel like we're kind of hindering that in any way by contacting someone if they don't want us to, or kind of holding them back from exploring what those things might look like, as long as it's in a safe and healthy way.
Now, you've been associated with Boston University for a number of years.
Yes, I did my
think I
undergraduate
remember
here.
you as an undergraduate.
Yes, I've done my undergrad. I've been here for a long time now. Actually, I'm coming up on my 10th year. This is my 10th year at Boston
congratulations.
University. Yeah. since my undergrad, and then I did my
Wow.
master's here, and then I started working here right away. So I'm a terrier through and through, and so
Yes,
I love
absolutely.
putting the word out there that Boston University gave me such a great experience that I feel like if I can convince one student to come here and take advantage of all that Boston University has, I think I've done my job. So I'm definitely very grateful to the university.
What kinds of, in all that time period, what kinds of one or two or three different kinds of issues that students generally bring to you as a nutritionist in terms of concerns about their own diet or well-being or eating disorder?
I think the biggest thing that we see is navigating the dining hall. I think that tends to be the biggest challenge for
Yeah.
students come in, and also that perception that weight gain is inevitable. There's this marketing tool
There
of the
is
freshman
that,
15,
right.
which isn't even a real thing. It's something that was made up many, many years ago by 17 magazine as a catchy kind of phrase. And students really do get concerned about that, and it feels really challenging. And for a lot of students, they were actively involved in organized sports, and now they don't have that organization for most of them, and it can become a challenge to figure out, well, how do I continue to maintain my health from there? And then also in this population, eating disorders tend to be prevalent just due to kind of the vulnerability of this population in the age group. So those are things that we tend to deal with on a regular basis, but we have great support services here with behavioral medicine and student health services to help those students kind of manage the challenging time that they're a part of.
I love what you said about navigating the dining hall, because this is the season, April, with admissions decisions just gone out, and this Friday is the first Boston University admissions open house where we welcome folks to campus, and that we welcome them to dine with us, with their parents. And sometimes, as an adult, I walk into a dining hall and there are so many options. I can't imagine a first-time 17-year-old newly admitted student how to navigate that, and how do you teach navigating a dining hall?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do to make it really easy is the Sargent Choice program. So
Love that.
yes,
Love that.
I know. That is like our no-brainer way that if they're making a choice, they know this is my better choice. And the way that they identify that, we have a logo that's a heart wearing a chef's hat to let you know it's delicious, but it's also healthy for you. And actually, this weekend is our Sargent Choice brunch that we're hosting at all three of the dining halls. So we'll have things like a parfait bar, avocado toast, some grain bowls that'll be available. So it's kind of great time that the admitted students are going to be here as well. So Sargent Choice kind of makes it easy for students to know, if I want to make that healthy choice, here's how I do it. But the other ways that we help them is just by looking at how can we make meal planning easier for them. Is it by simply saying, okay, let's just add vegetables to meals? Is it by adding more snacks so they're eating more frequently throughout the day? It's extremely individual to the person, but across the board, it's really just looking at what are my better options and how can I make those choices more often.
Great sound advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look for that little heart with the chef hat all the time.
Right, because we have it on our retail locations as well. Yeah,
it's available, and I try to make my
Good.
choices accordingly. So that's wonderful.
Lauren, I think we're down to our final minute, so
no problem.
Tell us how best to reach you, how best to reach the Sargent Choice. Give us the website and the phone number and the location.
Yeah, so we actually have two locations. One of them is located in Sargent College, so it'll be on the 6th floor of Sargent College.
Located at?
635 Commonwealth Avenue. Our other location is in the Ryan Center, which is at 10 Buick Street. And we have an annex office there that we work out of, which is nice because PT is up there, athletic training is up there, sports medicine is up there, so it allows for some collaboration.
Sort of connected to the fitness and recreation.
Absolutely, yeah. So students can access it that way as well. Our website is going to be bu.edu/scnc. And students can also contact us via phone, which is 617-353-2721.
And again, bu.edu/scnc, which stands for Sargent Choice Nutrition Center.
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely.
Good. We cannot thank you enough.
Thank you for having me.
Our time. I know it goes by so fast.
I know, but great to have me.
We appreciate you stopping by. And
no problem.
Hopefully you'll be back again.
Definitely.
Yes,
thank you.
Thanks. And we'll be right back following this commercial break. Welcome back to the Boston University Parents Program radio broadcast. I am back here again with my colleague and co-host, Christy Loring from the Parents Program. Again, it's a beautiful day, beautiful spring day in March along the banks of the Charles River. And I'm going to let Christy Loring introduce our third and final guest. This hour goes so quickly,
It
Christy.
sure does. Every month it sure does. And Daryl, I'm really pleased to introduce Steve Jarvi, who is the Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences for Student Academic Life. Thank you so much for joining us, Steve.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Steve,
Thank
tell us
you.
what that long title
I
means.
know, it is
Sure.
a long title.
So, for the biggest college at Boston University, by the way.
Absolutely. So student academic life involves a number of things, all related to student advising issues.
Mhm.
So we provide academic advising for undeclared students within the college,
Mhm.
but we provide academic support for all students in the college. So they pass through us to do a number of things, administrative kind of academic maintenance things,
Mhm.
whether it's apply to graduate, ask for exceptions to requirements, but also, and probably more importantly, questions about courses, questions about majors, even careers,
Mhm.
concerns about a class, if things at home are impacting academics, we do a lot of that.
I see.
Now, also in the unit is the pre-professional advising, so that's
Mhm.
pre-law and pre-health advising, and that's a service for all students in the university, not just CAS.
Okay.
And then student programs and leadership, and they're probably most well known for our first year experience class.
Sure.
But they do a number of programming initiatives around the transition and
Mhm.
student programs and organizations in the college.
Many parents listening in may have a son or daughter who have been enrolled in FY
That's true.
101.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's been a very popular choice and something that's grown exponentially every year.
Great. So, Steve, a question for you. How often are students required to meet with their advisors?
Sure. So within the college, the rule of thumb would be at least once.
One would hope.
Because there's a mechanism in place that requires them to see an advisor to have access to the system to actually register for classes.
I see.
We obviously recommend, especially first-year students, that they see an advisor more often, and many do.
Good.
But
Okay.
sometimes the program is pretty straightforward. Students know what they want to do or what they need to do, and we require them to see us just so we can check in with them.
I see.
Now,
Okay.
once they progress in a major, there may be some majors that don't require advising. I understand that because often by then students are so well connected to their advisors or faculty, they're being advised and the requirement's not really
Sure.
necessary.
Not an official
Right.
advisor.
Right.
But as you already referred to, that it is important to have an advisor and or mentor because students are coming to you with issues that are sort of well-rounded, if you will. It's important to network, get advice, seek career advice, professional advice. So I think it's important to encourage students to come to meet with advisors.
It is, and you guys know well, BU is really good at helping students. We
Right.
have tremendous resources.
Mm-hmm.
I would put advisors on that list,
Yes.
but I think advisors also play the role of being someone in position to detect, for lack of a better term, when a student needs help.
Having their
And-
radar up.
Exactly. And so we encourage students early on to get to know their advisors. Now, in my area, we are professional advisors. So we're working with the undeclared students, and it's, many of us have counseling backgrounds. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Other students are assigned directly to faculty, and as you say, Daryl, they can have their radar up as well. But sometimes students have to take a little bit more initiative to make that relationship. And we encourage them early on to do just that. Faculty love to meet their students, their advisees. They're often available, whether it's through appointment or office hours, but sometimes students need a nudge to go see that faculty member.
Right.
It's just can be a little intimidating.
Absolutely.
Initially, how do students receive their academic
Sure.
advisor?
Yeah.
And can they swap if this doesn't appear to be a good fit or if they know someone who they prefer to be with?
Sure, that's a great question. So many students are assigned to their advisors when they come to summer orientation. And in the ideal scenario, which happens for some, they actually meet their advisors at summer orientation. That's certainly the case with undeclared students because, again, as I mentioned, our advisors are professionals, so we're here all summer. And sometimes that's the case in departments, but as you know, faculty are often out doing research and other things in the summer. So it's really incumbent upon the student in many departments to track down that advisor in the fall, make that connection. Now, advisors will often send out a welcome email, here at my office hours, come meet me. Some departments like psychology actually hold meetings for new students and at that point introduce them to advisors. But again, a common theme is to take the initiative. Along those same lines, students can take the initiative to change advisors, and it happens quite a bit. Sometimes it happens just because, people are different and you don't always connect, click, for lack of a better term. But I think it especially happens too when students find faculty that have similar interests, academic or research interests. And sometimes we'll even have faculty advisors that will recommend the student go get a different advisor because there's someone that's more connected to their academic interests.
Even on a personal level, right?
Absolutely.
I might be interested in running or biking or swimming or...
Sure. I think that's one of the messages we send all the time is you can change your advisor, and we do it, no questions asked.
That was something that I wasn't aware of, and that's good to know. Every once in a while I'll hear from a parent, well, my son or daughter's advisor isn't very accessible, they don't have regular meeting hours, or so on and so forth. So it is possible to make a change.
Yes, it is.
Great.
And generally I have found that faculty and academic advisors are readily available. They put out their office hours, they put out their contact information, their email. Sometimes faculty give them their home phone number and cell phone number to reach them. But it does take that little extra initiative and shove. How many different fields of study are there in the College of Arts and Sciences?
Oh boy. I mean, when you add up all the variations, somewhere between 75 and 100 that students could do. There are 23 to 24 distinct departments, but we're talking joint degrees, we're talking combined degrees, we're talking all that. There's a lot of different options for students.
I like to say when I meet prospective students and parents that the most popular major in America is undeclared.
Yes.
So that's probably where you get most of your fuel and business from.
Right. It has been the case every year that the incoming class, the most popular major, is undeclared. It's a wide variety of undeclaredness, however, from students that truly have no idea to students that have already narrowed it down, but they're just really not ready to make that commitment, and that's fine. BU students, as a rule, are ambitious, very serious, and we have very few that late in that sophomore year are still undecided. We don't have to push them out the door. They are eager to make a decision. Sometimes we ask them just to be patient. It'll be a better decision if you wait a little bit longer.
Does academic advising have to sort of craft differently a role in advising a student who is undeclared and helping that student sort of sort out what their top 3 interests might be?
Sure. I think, I still advise students, and I love working with undeclared students, and sometimes it's just giving them permission to be undecided, to remind them that they're not at a disadvantage, they'll still graduate in 4 years.
Hear that, parents? Giving them permission to be undeclared and undecided, they will still graduate in 4 years.
And frankly, sometimes it's giving them answers to their parents' questions, because parents are rightfully so concerned about making that decision, about the options they'll have when they graduate. And we're good at helping students kind of craft the narrative. Now, your point is well taken, in that part of that is often helping students develop lists, narrow things down, identify strengths and weaknesses. But that's so much easier when they've had some class time under their belt, because it's not theoretical anymore. It's I liked this class, I liked doing this type of work. And encourage them not to worry right away how that class will lead to a job, but how that class might lead to further interest in that area. We have the luxury of being in the Yawkey Center for Student Services. which is a relatively new facility, and the
Mhm.
Center for Career Development is just 2 floors up from us.
That's
So we
wonderful.
work very closely with them as well. And it's not uncommon for us to refer students back and forth who are really asking the same questions, just starting at different points.
Mm-hmm. And to include the Educational Resource Center,
Right.
our other colleagues,
Yep.
you are in a sort of a gold mine or a treasure trove of resources in that building.
Right.
Not to mention the food on the first 2 floors.
That's a nice thing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Since we had Sergent Choice here earlier,
And,
and
yep.
and wellness and prevention services. So
That is a dining hall that needs navigation.
that's right.
It does. I'm overwhelmed. I just go to the grill every
Yeah.
time. I don't want all those other options.
Stay away from that Rise Bakery in the lower level, right?
But-
Get you in trouble there.
But we're very lucky. It's funny when it was built, because we moved our advising office from Central Campus, and
Mhm.
people were concerned students wouldn't make the trip, but the opposite's been true.
Sure.
They come because that's where they know they'll get helped, and like you mentioned, everything else is there. It's really a nice spot, so we're very fortunate.
So 2-part question in our very little time that's remaining. Student applies to Boston University, gets admitted to the College of Arts and Sciences, is undeclared,
Right.
takes a semester worth of courses, and decides this is the wrong school I'm in.
Right.
What can they do?
Sure.
What options do they have?
So I will say that our goal is to help students find their academic home. And if that's in the college, fine. But if it's not in the college, that's fine too.
We want them to succeed.
Exactly. And frankly, we have quite a number of students that pass through us on the way to Questrom, COM, and all the others. Those happen to be the most popular. And there's what I like about BU, and this isn't the case at every other large sort of research institution, is the barriers have been lowered to transition between schools and colleges. So we can honestly say to students, if you come to BU and start in CAS, you can move on.
There really is an important distinction.
Important distinction. It takes only 1 semester. Obviously, there's a GPA requirement, but it's set at a 2.0 with C average. And then there are gateway courses, usually just 1 or 2 courses that the other schools would require. Sometimes the GPA cutoff is a little higher, B- or B, but students can make that transition as early as after their fall semester, and many students are already in that school and college by the end of the first year. As much as we hate to see them go, keep in mind that there are students from those other schools and colleges coming to CAS.
Transferring in.
Same thing. They find themselves in a professional school, decide that maybe that focus is not for them, and they come to the broader, sort of more varied opportunities we have in the college.
But ultimately, they're finding their right path,
Exactly.
which is what we're all here
It's
for.
all we're here for. Nope.
Finding their passion.
Yep, and that's why we like working. What I say to students is you can change your mind without changing your address. When you're at a big place like this,
That's right.
there are lots of options you have.
That's a
Dean
great
Jarvi,
saying.
can a student who is undeclared hold employment at Boston University, take a leadership position in a club organization? Can they study abroad?
Yep. There's no limits to being undeclared.
Okay.
There is no limit whatsoever.
That's great.
So it's we encourage them to make the decision when they're ready, because they get to work with departments and get to work with faculty, and I think that's an important step in their sort of academic development. To be honest with you, some students want to stay with us, so they've made their decision. They're happy with their major, but they love their advisor. And what we tell them is, you can always come back and see us. We're not going to turn you away.
You can have
But-
2.
Exactly. But now it's time for you to have a relationship with someone in your department.
Sure.
And usually they're completely comfortable with that arrangement.
That's fantastic. I just noticed the banner coming up here. The class of 2020 banner
Yes.
is up in the
Yes.
George Sherman Union. Friday is our first admissions open house. What is the College of Arts and Sciences incoming class of 2020 looking like in terms of size?
Sure. So, as part of the overall effort to reduce that freshman class, we're going to be a little bit smaller. We usually come in around 1,800, so we may be a little bit smaller than that. As you know, the quality of the class on all those, early metrics like standardized test scores and rank in class continue to go up. It'll be close to 25% international, which reflects the institution as a whole. The last few years we've actually been a little higher, closer to 28, but that's great. That's part of the what we are, who we are. Continuing to see interest in the STEM fields. I mentioned undeclared is the largest, but second place is usually biology and related majors. We've made a special effort this year to really promote the humanities. English and philosophy and religion, all very, very strong programs, and encouraging students to consider them as double majors or minors even. Pendulums tend to swing over time, and right now STEM is hot, and that's fine, and that's great, but it's, in time it'll swing the other way as well. So,
is the focus on the humanities and philosophy, is that part of the general education plan?
It is related. And I think it's related in that it's an effort just to help students appreciate what a diverse education includes, and that includes the social sciences and the humanities.
Right.
And in the College of Arts and Sciences, that's critical. It really defines the degree.
Sure.
But sometimes students just need the framework, even the vocabulary, for understanding why we say you have to take courses in all these different areas, even if you want to be a doctor and be a biology major. And frankly, why it will make you a better biology major and a better doctor.
Absolutely. That's great.
The advantage of being I want you to finish my sentence. The advantage of being in the College of Arts and Sciences at Boston University over a not small liberal arts school is?
Well, opportunities for research and faculty, the breadth of opportunities, including those research and faculty members. I think the exposure to the professional educations. I think that enhances a liberal arts student's experience here.
And you've mentioned it before, but the overall enormous resources and depth of what's available at Boston University as a urban residential research institution is endless.
It is endless, and it extends well beyond the campus boundaries.
That's right.
And I meet students that are meeting students from all around Boston. They're meeting faculty from around Boston. Their student clubs, academic clubs, are working with academic clubs at fellow institutions. It's amazing what goes on. Much of it unseen, because it's the way BU students are.
And we do live in a college town.
That is for sure.
I bet CAS Advising has a website. How do we get a hold of you? How do we reach you, and what's your contact?
It's BUEU/CAS Advising.
Yep.
CAS Advising. Right. And you're located, again, you mentioned the Yawkey Center for Student Services, located at
100 Bay State Road, right in Kenmore Square.
And regular business office hours?
Regular business office hours, but we always work around students to make individual appointments if they need be.
Great. And give us the general phone number as well.
Sure. 617-353-2400.
Excellent.
And we always have an advisor on call, whether for a phone call or a walk-in.
Oh, nice.
Oh, my goodness.
So students can always be seen immediately. It's the nature of the issues and concerns that come up.
That's great to know.
Christy, having Dean Jarvi here for a measly 20 minutes, we could do an entire show with him.
We most certainly could, absolutely.
But we don't have the time to do that, so we need to wrap up. Again, gratefulness and enormous thankfulness that you are here and have spent the time with us today.
It's my pleasure.
We couldn't be more happy.
Right.
Yes,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you for joining us.
We will see you next month, right after this break. Take care, and we'll see you later on.
Thank you.